Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Strong Female Athlete Podcast. I have been waiting to give this presentation. Yes, this is a YouTube presentation. So if you are tuning in from your car or just from audio, maybe you're listening to this while working out, definitely give it a listen. But I recommend returning back to it when you have the time to sit down and watch the presentation and see the videos and the pictures that I present, because this is extremely important to go over, because I'm talking all about ACL injury prevention and strength and conditioning programs and what to look for in a quality program. Because just because it's a strength training or ACL prevention program doesn't mean it's high quality. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on what to look out for and what is quality strength and conditioning coaching. What is a quality program? I can probably name a handful of my colleagues who are actually doing it right. A lot of people who have been on this podcast, but not every strength coach is doing it the right way. And oftentimes I've been finding a lot of these strength programs are more about becoming Instagram famous and not doing what's right for young athletes, not truly developing them and coaching them and teaching them technique. It's more about becoming famous on Instagram, posting kids doing crazy, wild exercises that they're not ready for. And as a result, our young girls are suffering and they're not staying fully healthy. And we're not building resilient athletes. We're building Instagram celebrities at this point, which is what we shouldn't be doing as strength coaches. So if you're a strength coach listening to this presentation too, it might challenge you. So grab a notebook, grab a snack, get a drink. Let's do this. ACL injury prevention, a program that must be coached, not just a few exercises. What do I mean by this? Well, here is what ACL injury prevention is not. It's not just a few exercises. So oftentimes on social media or even in articles online, you'll see top 3 exercises to do for ACL injury prevention. And they'll give a bunch of balance drills or maybe hip bridge variations or mini band walks. Do this for 3 sets of 10. Guys, that's not going to move the needle. That doesn't truly get our young girls resilient to the forces that cause an ACL rupture. It's not just a few exercises. ACL injury prevention is also not a dinky warm-up. There's a lot of warm-ups out there that they have girls teams doing for 10 to 15 minutes where it's also a bunch of balance and jumping and landing drills. But again, it's not moving the needle because one, athletes aren't doing these drills correctly. I've seen a lot of these videos posted and girls are wobbling. They're not having crisp landings on these jumping drills. And the coach is kind of ignoring the warm up too. They're just letting the girls go through the motions and the coach is on the sideline on his phone. So a dinky warm up is not going to help, especially because it's not coached, but it's also not progressed. Girls are doing the same movements over and over again for the full year. Eventually, they do have to progress because muscles get bored. Tendons and ligaments get bored. They eventually need new challenges to become durable. Okay, that moves me to number 3. ACL injury prevention is not lifting the same weight all the time. So oftentimes I'll see videos of girls doing a 20-pound goblet squat for several weeks and she hasn't progressed. Or a girls soccer team is working with their club strength coach and there's only 10 to 20 pound dumbbells available and there's no progression in that load to truly build strength and to eventually challenge the muscles as these girls go through the program or they continue to go through adolescence and get older. When girls get older, they naturally build and get a little bit stronger so we can continue to progress our older teenage girls. They should not be lifting 10-pound dumbbells throughout their entire adolescence. This next one really irks me, and this is going to challenge a lot of the coaches and strength professionals listening today. A lot of plyometrics and deceleration drills are poorly coached. So I will go over this and I'll go over what to look for in these deceleration and plyometric drills. And these are really important to really coach our female athletes on, because ACL tears happen during a plant, during a deceleration movement. So if we're not teaching them the correct positions in a controlled gym setting, then what's going to happen when they enter into a chaotic setting on the field or on the court? So they have to be coached properly in a controlled setting so that when they do enter into a game setting, they're more likely to get into more optimal and efficient positions. And then this last one is ACL injury prevention is not progressing athletes too fast. So if I have a 13-year-old girl who is a novice to strength training and plyometric training, I am not going to have her do 20-inch box jumps right away if I haven't taught her how to land properly. Okay, so a lot of these coaches are progressing athletes way too fast into advanced drills that their bodies can't even handle. They don't even have stability on just flat ground. So why are coaches progressing them to crazy depth jumps or box jumps? Oh, well, it's probably just to look cool on Instagram and to use young girls to go viral. It's not okay, guys, and I need to call it out. Okay, so here are some of these people, and I can't be quiet about this anymore because a lot of parents of girls I've spoken to, people who have DM'd me, girls who have tore their ACLs were progressed too fast. And a lot of parents are like, well, we were doing a strength program and she did everything right, but she still got hurt. But my question is, did she really do a quality strength program? Did she really do everything right? This is the problem, folks. So here are some red flags. This is all over social media, everyone. Not a lot of people are doing this properly. Speaking of advancing to plyo drills too fast that an athlete isn't ready for, this is about a 13 to 14-year-old girl who, from the video, she absolutely looked like a novice because she didn't have basic coordination. She didn't have stability of her trunk. And as you can see here, she was doing a broad jump for distance. And when she landed, she completely collapsed. What does a broad jump train? Okay, well, it does train acceleration and lower body power, but the landing of a broad jump should be training deceleration positions. And when an athlete is decelerating in a game to change direction, we don't want them to collapse like this, because not only are they going to be a step behind and unable to turn efficiently into the direction they want to go because their trunk's so far forward. Also, the forward lean of the trunk like this is a lot of load on the ACL. So we're training a poor movement pattern here for both performance and health of the athlete. So don't do this. This is a red flag, guys. Box jumps as well. Same thing with this kid here. This kid was about 12, maybe 11 years old, doing a 20-inch box jump he wasn't ready for. But hey, it looked cool on Instagram with the Drake rap music playing in the background. So again, landing on the toes, and we'll go over proper landings for these deceleration plyometric drills. Landing on the toes, falling forward, collapsing of the knees, training that trunk to sway forward, which is what we don't want for deceleration and cutting movements and change of direction. We want the trunk to be in a more neutral and upright position so the athlete can move fast in any direction. If it's too far forward, again, if they have to turn back and go the other way, they are way behind. So in a controlled gym setting, we have to train these movements and positions properly. The more likely an athlete can go into that spontaneous game setting and execute these well. Okay, this next one, a lot of you strength coaches listening are not going to be happy about. This is wrong. Now, I couldn't grab the video on this one, but again, a too far forward trunk lean on a heavy squat that this girl also was not ready for. Yes, showing your athletes squatting heavy is an ego boost as a strength coach, and posting it on Instagram and getting the likes, that's a huge ego boost, right? But are you truly developing this athlete and keeping her healthy? A lot of stress on the low back here with this heavy of a squat and this far forward of a trunk lean. And what also happened in this video was, since she was too far forward, she didn't activate her quads and really get the most out of the exercise. She ended up dipping up in the squat using her hips and low back. Again, a lot of stress on the spine and not enough working of the quads, which is what we want to do with a squatting movement. Okay. And then this one, I hear a lot. I get a lot of complaints from parents of coaches having girls do broad jumps, hurdle jumps, box jumps, and the knees collapse. That knee valgus is not good. And even parents notice it. They're like, yeah, we were watching our coach run practice and they were doing full field broad jumps and knees were caving in and it didn't look right. If you get a bad feeling about it, it's probably not right. We do not want this. We do not want knees collapsing on these controlled movements. Knee valgus is a risk factor for ACL tears, and it is something that is modifiable with proper training and proper coaching. So these are red flags to look out for. I know it's all over social media. You see more of these videos than actual videos of athletes actually being coached. It's sad. Okay, so what do quality ACL prevention programs actually do? Well, they do these things. Okay, these are the top 5. And I'm just talking about the strength and conditioning side of things. Of course, there's other things that go into injury prevention, like proper nutrition, recovery, and load management. I talk about all that in my Female Athlete High Performance book. Those are important as well. But the lowest hanging fruit is you need to have your daughter do a quality strength and conditioning program. So, what does a quality program do? Number 1, it addresses the neuromuscular imbalances that are risk factors for ACL injuries. These are trunk dominance. So again, that forward swaying of the trunk or even lateral swaying of the trunk during deceleration and landing movements, okay, that causes the knees to collapse and that causes that knee valgus. So that means more force on the ACL to twist and rupture. Number 2, quality ACL prevention programs do these. They build strength relative to body weight. So coming back to girls not lifting the same weights all year and actually progressing and lifting heavy over a long period of time, they must gain strength relative to body weight on the main lifts. So your squats, your hex bar deadlifts, split squats, single leg squats, they have to be eventually lifting some heavy weight to truly build strength. Quality ACL prevention programs also, number 3, progress and coach deceleration properly. So if it looks like a cool exercise on Instagram, but you're kind of seeing some wacky landings, then it's not being coached properly. And the exercise selection is not appropriate for that athlete at that point in time. Okay, number 4, quality ACL prevention programs progress and coach plyometrics properly. And then number 5, they repeat the importance of year-round training. This is one a lot of people royally mess up. In order to progress in strength and progress to more advanced plyometrics, girls have to be doing year-round training. Otherwise, us strength coaches have no opportunity to actually develop these athletes and to really work on building these qualities for them to become resilient. Okay, so let's go over the first one in more detail. We're going to go over all of these in detail so you guys can actually see videos of what to look for and how it should be coached. Now, again, please tune in on video at some point if you can and take some notes on this because these are very critical to address. Okay, the first one, address the trunk dominance neuromuscular imbalance. So if you look at this picture on the left here, so I put this one in my Female Athlete High Performance book where I had a side-by-side of incorrect versus correct form on all of these drills. So this is incorrect on a single leg jump and land drill. So as you can see, my shoulder is leaning laterally towards my plant foot, which causes more force on that knee due to that knee caving in, that knee valgus. So if you see trunk swaying on any landing drills and girls are losing their balance, not correct. So we need to correct trunk dominance. Okay, and then if you look here, so I got these images from the cutting movement assessment screen. So it's a publication that was written for ACL return to play on how to teach proper cutting and change of direction movements and what to look for. But I would argue healthy athletes don't even get this right. So when they're cutting or planting their foot to change direction, again, you see that lateral trunk lean towards the plant foot. That lean should actually be going in the direction the athlete's traveling, not towards the plant foot. Because if it's towards that plant foot, the knee is more likely to undergo that twisting motion and those forces that cause ACL tears. Now, when we're looking at exercises of trunk dominance in the gym and it being coached wrong, these are some red flags. So this girl on the bottom here who's doing a push-up, this is wrong, guys. This is actually training the trunk to be more dominant and unstable because she's not being taught how to keep her back straight on a push-up and to keep tension in her glutes. You can see her lower back is drooping. So she's not building trunk and core stability as a result of that push-up. So the athlete's not ready for this movement. She might need to start with just a basic plank hold where she gets in that straight position. She's keeping tension and squeezing her glutes, and she's keeping her glutes and shoulders level. If athletes are doing push-ups like this is wrong. This is training a bad neuromuscular pattern. And then when we come to pull-ups, if athletes are swinging to the bar or their legs are swinging forward and they're not going straight up and straight down, again, they're not keeping that tension in their glutes and really staying straight, we're not really getting the most out of the exercise from a core stability standpoint and a trunk stability standpoint. So look out for these. Okay, what is correct? Okay, so to really address trunk dominance and to get that part of the body, that upper part of the body, the core, and also the hips, the lumbopelvic area more stable, we have to be teaching planking variations properly. So as you can see here on the left, one of my athletes is doing a side plank and she's staying completely straight. She's not drooping the hips. And I'm always cueing her, squeeze your glutes, keep tension in your glutes, get your glutes involved in this exercise. And she's able to execute this perfectly. Same thing with this girl here doing a plank hold. I'll oftentimes put a dowel on their back so they can make sure that they're staying straight and their hips aren't drooping. Because guys, as soon as the hips droop, that's when the core is not activated enough and we're not really getting a lot out of these planking exercises. To hold this for even just 30 seconds, squeezing as hard as possible and keeping that tension, it's actually very hard. So give it a try and make sure your female athletes are staying straight, the hips and the shoulders are lined up. Now we can also train proper trunk stability during squatting, single leg squat movements. And again, making sure athletes aren't having too much of a forward lean during squatting movements, because not only is it going to hurt the low back when we load it, but it's also going to really put too much extra load and stress on the knees. So when we're doing squatting movements, we want to make sure athletes, let me just hold this here, are keeping their posture tall. So she's not leaning forward on her knees. And I like to have girls, when they're starting out, hold a kneeling pad and squeeze the sides as hard as possible and press out as they're doing that squatting movement so that their core is turning on and they're able to maintain that upright trunk area. So I'll play this for you guys again. So she did that beautifully. Now, the next one to address is knee valgus. So these are pictures of girls who came to me for their first initial assessment. So on day one, I have all female athletes do a single leg squat test or a lunge hold or a 2-inch step down movement and just body weight and to see what happens. And most of the time, I would say universally, everyone's doing this wrong. Okay, so knees caving in over the big toe. It's wobbling too much on the way down. So there's a lot of instability. So this can be corrected. So this can be corrected with proper exercise selection and progression. Okay, so how do I correct this? Well, a lot of girls will start with just body weight and just really making sure the quad is turning on and working properly, because a lot of girls, their VMO, the inner muscle of the quad, it does not activate properly. So we'll start by just doing a 2 to 5 inch step down, and we'll do it for high rep to really burn the quads and get that repetition in. And if I would draw a line from her kneecap to her middle toes, that's what I want. But if the knee was coming in over this big toe here, we don't want that. So you want to just make sure everything's nice and lined up. And I'm also not just looking at the knee on these, I'm also looking at the foot. So I want to make sure the foot's not wobbling either. It's not pronating or supinating too much. So I always cue with my athletes, squeeze the box with your big toe and your pinky toe. And usually they respond well to that and the foot stays stable. So I'm also looking at the foot and ankle as well. Okay, so this is like the first progression we do. And then the next progression is a single leg squat to box, just body weight. And we're really focusing on controlling the eccentric part of the movement. So that's the way down. So the slower the athlete goes, the more they're activating the quad, but they also can really focus on the position of the knee and making sure the knee stays stable. So as you can see, she's really taking her time here. She does a pretty good job with it. And these movements, guys, they take so much time to address. So it won't be perfect on day one. That's why, again, we have to have girls commit to these programs so that we can correct these neuromuscular imbalances. Motor learning takes time, but I do like to use certain cues with my athletes to correct them as much as I can on week 1, week 2, so that we're close to perfect form here. Let me play this again. So she does a very excellent job. It's almost a 90-degree angle on that single leg squat. So very well done there. Okay, this next one is so important. So once we have corrected these movement patterns, these neuromuscular imbalances, it's time to really build some strength. So fun fact, ACL injuries happen in forces of up to 8 times body weight. So guys, those 10-pound dumbbells ain't helping your daughter. She eventually has to progress. So if you have a daughter who starts in the gym, I would say in 6th grade is fine. She should learn the movement patterns first with body weight, the ones I just went over. And then slowly over time, once we nail those down, then we start to load. And then in high school, we start to really lift heavy and gain strength relative to body weight. So for the quads, my main lifts I like to do are squatting variations. So this is the one squat that I actually like. I do not like a quarter squat, half-assed. I want full butt to heels, okay? Or cheeks to sneaks. That's what my friend Zach Woodward, he's a PT return to play specialist in Colorado. Cheeks to sneaks. And this is hard, guys. So I think the weight in this one, she's doing like an 85 or 90 pound back squat. And a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that's not enough. That's not heavy enough. Well, try doing it cheeks to sneaks. It is extremely hard. And not a lot of girls have this type of range of motion. So not only do they work their quads more in that range of motion, but they also gain better flexibility in the hips, in the ankles, which is what they need for change of direction movements. They need that type of mobility to get low during change of direction and to be doing those movements efficiently. So this is very hard to do. I'm tired of seeing these heavy quarter squats online and everyone thinks, oh, wow, she can do a 200-pound squat. Yeah, great. But does she have any flexibility? Does she have any mobility? How's her low back feeling? So we really want to make sure that we're doing quality range of motion over lifting super heavy and just maxing out. Okay, another one I like to do is single leg quad variations relative to body weight. So I like to have my girls at least single leg squat 20 to 25% of their body weight for 3 to 5 reps. Okay, so this girl is doing 20% of her body weight. She executes it beautifully. We addressed the knee valgus. We addressed her trunk dominance in the beginning, and now she's loading with 20% of her body weight and doing it perfectly with such good control. Too often girls rush this single leg squatting movement and they're wobbling all over the place. We need to address that early on before we start lifting some heavy weight. Okay, and then for the hamstrings, I like to do hex bar deadlifts. They're very coachable. Girls love them. They feel powerful doing them. And for hex bar deadlifts, I want girls to, at a minimum, work towards deadlifting 1.25 times their body weight. I've had a few middle school girls this year, 8th grade girls, do well over 120 pounds for 3 reps, which is amazing in 8th grade. So by the time they get to college, they're probably going to be deadlifting well over 200 pounds. Okay, so we want to make sure it's relative to the girl's body weight so she can really gain some strength. And the hamstrings are so important in ACL injury prevention because the hamstrings prevent the tibia from shearing too far forward and causing the ligament to twist and rotate too much. So the hamstrings actually, they pull that tibia back on the posterior side of the body so that the knee has more stability. So girls must be deadlifting heavy eventually. They must be working up to 1.25 times body weight. And then I don't think I mentioned how much I require for the full range of motion back squats. But I would say if girls can do a full range of motion back squat, 75% of body weight for 3 reps, that's solid. Okay, now girls also have to build upper strength because again, it helps with that trunk dominance neuromuscular imbalance so that girls have extremely strong upper bodies and core areas. So the core it's not just your 6-pack abs, but it wraps around to your low back and then into your hip flexors, all your glute muscles. So we want to make sure with our upper body exercises, again, girls are creating tension and squeezing their butt as hard as possible. And my athletes in Lutz, Florida here, they find it so funny that I'm always saying, squeeze your butt, but they feel a difference in how well they can execute these exercises by just doing that. So during pull-ups, again, we don't want that swinging on pull-ups. We don't want it looking like a CrossFit class. We really want to stay straight during the downward phase. Okay, take your time. She's doing great. And then on the upward phase. Okay, so her feet are staying below her shoulders. They're not coming forward, but that's because she's keeping tension in her glutes. So not only is she getting a great upper body exercise with her back muscles, but also the entirety of her core is turning on and working. Same with our push-up movements. Now, this girl, she's very advanced. She's been doing the program for several months. She progressed nicely to a weighted eccentric push-up. So just working on that downward lowering phase first and really making sure she's staying straight. Okay, there's no hip drooping here. Watch. She does an excellent job. So in this bottom position, hips lined up with shoulders. This is a 10-pound weight, you guys. 10-pound weight, freshman girl. Crushing it. But again, she got to this point because she was consistent for several months. Okay, there's no quick fix. ACL injury prevention is a program. It's not just a few exercises. I can't repeat that enough. Okay, more building strength. Now, we don't just do the main lifts like squat and deadlift, single leg squats. We also have what is called accessory movements that really work other parts of the muscles. So I like to use different hamstring curl variations to really strengthen the back of the hamstring close to where that ACL is. So slider hamstring curls done under control. Again, tension in the glutes the whole time. So the glutes and the hamstrings are co-contracting and working together. Okay, this is very hard, guys, especially to do it with the hips staying up and doing it under control. Nordic ham curls, actually controlling them and not just rushing them and falling down. Too often girls butcher Nordic ham curls. They fall forward too fast. There's no tension in the glutes. The hamstrings aren't even working. So please go slow. If you have to have girls start with a band to assist them so they can control the way down slow, then do that. And then eventually you can progress them to doing it with no assistance. So she does a great job. And again, with this, hips and shoulders have to stay lined up. Too often athletes, they'll lose that straight line and then their shoulders will go forward and their hips will flex. When that happens, that means the glutes have completely turned off and stopped working. So we want the glutes to work through the entire exercise. Okay, other variations, split squats. So different split squat movements, whether it's an eccentric split squat to really train eccentric quad strength, which is needed for deceleration, or maybe a rear foot elevated split squat, maybe a pause split squat, pausing in that bottom position. And then also lunge variations. So forward lunges, backward lunges, lateral lunges to do it in all planes of motion. So these are just some accessory movements to really train hamstring strength and add some more quad dominant exercises. Okay, number 3, this one is so important, and a lot of this will surprise you guys, but a quality ACL prevention program progresses and coaches deceleration properly. The first thing I want to go over is that for all deceleration jumps and landing drills, girls must have their eyes up. This is a hot take, but I don't use a lot of equipment for my jump drills. I don't. I hardly use hurdles. I don't even have hurdles. I might use a box for depth jumps, but that's it. I want my girls to have their eyes up, looking straight ahead and getting comfortable with the ground, getting comfortable with feeling the ground and landing properly. Do not have your girls have their eyes down during any jumping or deceleration drills, because in a game, their eyes should be up when they're changing direction. They should have a broad horizon of the field. We do not want them to be so narrow and in a box looking down at the ground. We want to train their eyes to be up during deceleration movements. And it also improves their landings when they keep their eyes up, because when the eyes are up, then their trunk is more likely to be upright and not falling forward. So just simply cueing athletes to keep eyes up during these drills helps them to have good lower body landing mechanics. It's amazing how it works. So another part of coaching deceleration is athletes must sit into their hips, and when they land, stack their shoulders on top of their feet. So again, shoulders should not be falling forward. They should not be falling forward on their toes when they're landing broad jumps or vertical jumps or box jumps. They really need to use the hips and the ankles and have strong cores when they're landing, because that's how we want them to be changing direction and the patterns we want them used to. They have to really get low and sit into their hips for efficient change of direction and to be fast with it, but also for that injury prevention piece. Because when they're sitting into their hips, the less rotational force on the knee. Okay, and when athletes are decelerating, arms need to be quiet. Okay, so if the arms are loud and flailing everywhere when they're decelerating, the trunk is going to be swaying towards that plant foot. We don't want that. So athletes, when decelerating or doing jump and landing drills, arms just stay neutral. They stay quiet. They don't really need to be doing anything. Okay, deceleration is the opposite of acceleration and sprinting. So acceleration and sprinting, we want the arms to be loud, but during deceleration, they should be quiet and not getting involved. Okay, and then for landings, everyone butchers landings. You'll see it all over social media. If the landings are not crisp and athletes aren't landing behind the ball of their foot, so that's about the middle of the foot, and they're landing more on their toes and falling forward, that is wrong. When decelerating, we want the weight to be more on the heel when they're braking and then to the forefoot, okay, not on the toes. Okay, so I always cue my girls, squeeze the ground with the middle of your foot when you're landing. When you stick that landing, squeeze with the middle of the foot and sit into those hips. And usually that gets them in the right positions. Okay, let's look at a couple videos. So watch these girls on the left here, how we are landing and what the positioning looks like. So this is the first beginner progression we start with to coach deceleration, is just a tiny leaping movement on both feet. Okay, so watch. Now look how they're landing. Does this look correct? Well, let's look. Feet are flat. They're not falling forward on their toes. Great. Now let's move up the chain. They are sitting back into their hips. So they're working the glutes. The hamstrings are getting involved. And then their trunk is in a neutral position. So their shoulders are stacked right on top of their feet for those landings. Okay. We see no collapsing forward of the trunk. We see very quality, crisp landings here, very good positions. And again, this takes time. It takes time to coach. Development is not sexy. If I posted this exercise on Instagram, this wouldn't go viral. Like, they're just doing a basic leap. Doesn't look like a big deal, but I don't care about going viral. I care about development of the athlete. We need to teach them these positions, and then eventually they can progress to more advanced stuff like this. So a broad jump for distance, trunk is in a neutral position, sitting into her hips, landing with the feet flat. Watch again. The only thing that I would cue this athlete is on the landing, just keep your eyes forward. Okay. That's how I would correct her on that. A lot of athletes do forget that because they're so used to looking down all the time, but it's something that I have to be repetitive with. This girl does a great job. So again, once we get these basic leaps down in these positions, look, landing a box jump, look at the positioning. Is this correct? All right, let's start at the feet. Okay, feet are flat. We're not falling forward on the toes. Hips, she's sitting into her hips well, working those glutes and hamstrings. And then her trunk is in that neutral position, shoulders stacked on top of feet for that landing. Is she collapsing forward? Is she doing an exercise that isn't appropriate for her? No, this exercise is appropriate for her because she can do it well. She started again with these leaps several months ago. We worked on them in multiple directions. We increased the speed of the leap. And then we just continue to progress. Then we started doing broad jumps, then high vertical jumps. Now she's on a depth jump to box jump. And the only equipment I'll really use is a box. That's about it. I see no need for hurdles, and you guys will see why. So great. Very good job on this jump here. Okay. So this is eventually what we want to get our athletes to more of these advanced progressions. But it takes time. It takes development. It takes proper coaching. They have to go through the proper steps to get to these drills. Consistent training. Now, this is why I don't use hurdles, because most girls, when hurdles are in the way, here's the problem with hurdles. Girls are looking down all the time. There's no way you can do a hurdle single leg jump without looking down. Okay, so I just get rid of them altogether so girls can keep their eyes up. So here she's just doing a bound and stick. So this is more of a basic single leg progression, bound and stick. Okay, so you see that landing. Let me pause it here. She's not on her toes. She's sinking her hips and she's in that neutral trunk position. Her shoulders are stacked on top of her feet. She's not falling forward. And then I progress that to lateral single leg jumps. I don't need a hurdle for this because we still can get high without hurdles. You guys will see soon. She's eyes up. Look at that. Eyes up. Look how crisp these landings are. And you don't see the knee wobbling during those landings because she's in the correct positions and she's confident. Okay, this took time too, but look, she has her eyes up. Do I need hurdles? Nope. Jumping and landing drills are part of deceleration, but then we also have to get out onto the field and coach deceleration when we're sprinting and pumping the brakes. So let me explain to you guys how this all connects with trunk position, sitting into the hips, and doing all these drills properly in a gym setting. So look at her deceleration strategy. Is her trunk in an upright neutral position? Yes. Her arms are quiet, okay, not too loud. She's keeping them right next to her body, not swaying them. And as she pumps the brakes, She is sitting into her hips, getting low, okay, because that's how we worked on landing jumps in the gym. So it translates to this. And then when she breaks, she's not falling forward. So she is in a good position, an advantageous position here to maybe turn around and sprint the other way. Okay, so if she was falling forward too much, she would be slow to turn around. Okay, so don't we want our athletes to be agile? Proper positions, guys. And she also is on the middle of her foot. She's not falling forward on her toes. So she's in an advantageous position to turn around, sprint, change direction, maybe lateral shuffle left, lateral shuffle right, or to continue to sprint forward. So she can do whatever she wants in this position. It's all about teaching it properly and doing it well in controlled settings. And then for changing direction, so turning around. So again, in this picture, let's look at her hips. So she's sitting into her hips during this 180-degree turn. And look at the plant foot. Now, does she have her shoulder swaying towards the plant foot? No. She has her shoulders going in the direction she wants to travel. So this is efficient, healthy movement. Remember, we don't want this shoulder to sway towards the plant foot because then that increases the load on the knee to twist and rupture. Okay, so this is correct. And a lot of this came from teaching these drills, but also the proper core stability work we did in the gym, doing planks perfectly, doing push-ups perfectly, doing pull-ups perfectly. A lot of it just works itself out if we train these gym movements properly. Okay, let's go over plyometrics. So plyometrics are different than your decel, your jumping and landing drills where they're sticking a landing. Plyometric drills are supposed to train fast twitch muscles and motor recruitment to improve speed and explosiveness. So plyometrics are faster, they should be bouncier. It's when you jump, land, and jump back up quickly. Okay, so quick ground contact times. We're not sticking landings in plyometric drills. Plyometric drills, we are jumping, landing, then going. Okay, so it's all about training what's called the springs of an athlete. And it's also called reactive strength in the strength and conditioning world. So the better an athlete has reactive strength, the better they can pump the brakes in a game and quickly change direction. That's called reactive strength. So we want to build it properly. Eyes must look forward for all plyo drills. No equipment needed. Okay, keep it simple. We don't want our athletes looking down at the ground because it ruins the mechanics of a plyo drill. It ruins postures. And for a lot of plyo drills, I want my athletes to have tall postures to create vertical force. The more vertical force an athlete has, the better sprinters they are. So we want eyes up during plyo drills. Now, this one's key. Not a lot of people are doing this, but the performance of the athlete must dictate the type of plyo drill used, not the other way around. Okay, coaches should not be programming advanced plyometrics for an athlete who is not ready for them, who hasn't built up their tendons enough, their muscles enough to handle a higher intensity drill. So if an athlete is not performing a plyo drill correctly, it needs to be regressed. So the performance of the athlete dictates the type of plyo drill. During plyos, the movement is through the ankles and hips, not the knees. Okay, so really training the stiffness of the ankles and improving the elasticity of the athlete, getting them really twitchy and explosive. It's all through the ankles and hips, just like in sprinting. We do not want to be knee dominant in these. Athletes during plyometrics must pop off the ground. So they must keep speed. It's pop, pop, pop. It should be quick. That's why girls should not be doing plyometrics for minutes on end because they slow down and we lose the fast twitch benefits of a plyometric drill. So make sure every rep is poppy. And then that brings me to the last one. The number of reps for plyos is determined by the intensity of the plyo and its mechanical load. So mechanical load is the stress placed on the muscles and tendons. A really high vertical jump is a high mechanical load, but just a bunny hop where kids are hardly getting off the ground, that's a low mechanical load. It's more of a starter plyo. So the plyo drills that are lower in intensity, you can do more reps. But once we start to do higher intensity plyos, that's more low rep. Okay, so let's look at some different variations of plyos from beginner to medium to more advanced. Okay, so this is the more lower intensity plyo, so just backward pogo hops. As you can see, these athletes are pushing through the ball of the foot and they're staying nice and tall. They're looking straight ahead. Okay, we do not want them looking down. We want them being tall, shoulders stacked on top of feet. Okay, so we would do about maybe like 10 repetitions here for about three sets. And then this is usually a part of a speed warm up I like to do. So they're really twitchy and explosive and they're in proper positions. So that's more of a beginner plyo. Now this is more advanced. So to progressing more to single leg traveling hops. So she's tall, she's moving through the ankle and the hips and eyes are forward. Her eyes were down, posture would collapse just a little bit, which is what we don't want. Look how she's popping through that ball of the foot. It looks easy, but it's actually very hard to do. So this is a more advanced medium plyo. So we might do like anywhere from 5 to 8 reps each foot, depending on how twitchy she stays. But we want to make sure every rep is bouncy. So I don't need hurdles for this. She's still getting some good height. If a hurdle were there, she would be looking down. And then these are the most advanced ones. So the athletes are lifting the knee up a little bit more in this one here. So again, I don't need a hurdle. They can just lift their knee up and get more height. So that's more of an advanced single leg plyo where they're getting more height. There's more mechanical load on the muscles and tendons. Okay, we're almost done, guys. I hope you're enjoying this. It's a lot to take in, but I'm really passionate about this, and I'm really passionate about developing athletes and just educating everyone on quality training and really what to look for, because there's so much information out there and there's so many strength coaches and facilities. And as a parent, it's hard to know, well, what's quality and what's not. And, I don't want to hate on people. I do know a handful of colleagues who are doing it right, and I commend them. And that's why I try to platform them on my podcast. So please seek these people out, because your daughter deserves to be in good hands, and you want to throw everything you got at this. Obviously, we can't fully prevent injuries, but man, give your daughter the best fighting chance she has with a quality program. Don't just do a watered down strength and conditioning program where these things aren't being coached and progressed properly. And also, here's my last one. You have to do this year round. So a quality ACL prevention program repeats the importance of year-round training. Okay, if you have someone who is just doing a session by session, just pop in and out model, that's not good enough. I stopped doing the lessons model years ago because I was finding that my girls weren't getting results. I would see them maybe 1-2 times a month, and then they would take a couple months off, and we made no progress. There was no development happening. So when we're doing a year-round program, that's when true physical development happens. And parents, please let us strength coaches have time with your athletes so we can take them through these proper steps and teach correctly. And by the time, if they're starting in middle school and they stay all the way through high school and college, man, they're going to be doing things at age 18 that no other 18-year-olds can do. True physical development, it needs to be long term. It can't just be, come as you go, just Venmo me $50 for the session. No, it has to be a full program. And again, that brings me to the second point. Motor learning takes time. So all those neuromuscular imbalances, the trunk swaying over the plant foot, or the knee valgus and the knee caving in, actually teaching athletes how to correct these neuromuscular imbalances, that takes time. It's like learning how to shoot a soccer ball with the laces. That takes time. It takes repetition. It takes teaching, and it takes a lot of practice. So again, that's why you have to be doing this year round, because we want to modify these neuromuscular imbalances. And I can tell you, a lot of girls that come assess with me have them. It's very universal that girls have these, but we don't need them to play the female victim card because we can correct these if we're given time with athletes. And then this next one, again, the longer an athlete is consistent, the more they can do the advanced cool stuff you see on social media properly. I have girls who started with me years ago and they're 17, 18 years old now. And the stuff we're doing now is wild, especially a lot of the plank and core variations we're doing. We're doing different pull-up grips, weighted pull-ups, heavy weighted push-ups. I mean, the stuff we're doing is insane, but I don't really post that stuff on social media because I don't want people to think that's what we're starting with my program. So I don't really post a lot of our flashy stuff because I don't want people getting the wrong idea. Because what people don't know about a lot of this flashy stuff when it is done properly, that took years to get to. So again, be consistent because then you can do the more advanced work and you can do it correctly without putting your athlete at risk of injury. And the importance of year-round training, again, if an athlete stops and only does like 1 to 2 months in the summer off season, they'll wither away. So true strength goes as quickly as 4 weeks, and then muscle size starts to atrophy as soon as 6 weeks away from a program. So what happens? Female athletes become weak, and when they become weak, they become more susceptible to injury again. For all the parents who say, well, my daughter did everything right, but she still tore her ACL, was she consistent year round? And was this a quality program? Were the movements I went over today actually coached properly? Was she gaining strength relative to body weight? Again, guys, you want to throw the best you can at all this. If you do this properly, you can reduce ACL injury by over 50%. That is an amazing statistic, but it has to be a proper and consistent strength program. And the final reminder, guys, ACL injury prevention means doing a quality program and being consistent. It's not just a few exercises. It's not just a bunch of balance drills. It's not doing stuff for the sake of going viral on social media. Is your daughter truly developing her physical qualities to be resilient in a game? Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this helps shed light on what to look for. I know not everyone has access to a quality program, or maybe you just don't know if there's a coach in your area, but I do know a lot of high quality professionals in the Boston area, in Calgary, Canada, if you're there. I also know quality professionals in Pennsylvania, in Colorado, a few other places. So if you need recommendations, I'll take a look at my roster of colleagues who are doing this properly. But guys, it's really important to just sift through the noise. I really recommend just don't follow a ton of training accounts on social media because you're always going to want that next best thing. You have to really pick a quality program, pick a path, stay consistent with it, and let the strength coach develop your daughter. I can't repeat this enough. Don't be like looking around at what's fancy and what looks cool because that doesn't mean it's right. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.